How do you close out your letters? I know younger people right here, they're saying, what's a letter? Well, it's like a long text, only on paper. Oh, yeah. Young people don't write letters anymore. They text and they email and they Skype and they Twitter. They just don't write. In fact, they don't even teach cursive writing in schools anymore. But how do you close out your letter? What do you say at the end? Some people have just a standard greeting. They put it all the time. Sincerely. Or, I don't know. Do you ever close it out with a phrase? I mean, I've seen some closing letters, and I remember one of the gentlemen in our association, our convention rather, who was in the evangelism department for years, would just put at the end, it's only good news if they hear it before they die. It's good news, but it's only good news if they hear it before they die. It's kind of interesting. It makes you think, right? Do you ever write any closings that make people think about what you're sending to them? Well, Paul is getting ready to remind them or get them to think about some things, but sometimes maybe we've written some things and we close our letters like this, missing you or wish you were here, and some people up north are writing, wish I was there. And some might write, hope to see you soon. But you probably close out something with a greeting, and you're making them think in the closing of your letter. Have you ever sent an email to the wrong person? There's no unsend button. If you ever send something electronically, and maybe even as a voicemail, you after you left it, you're like, I wish I could take that, but you can't. Electronically, once you close out your email and you send it, and you push send, it can be a little bit embarrassing sometimes. I've heard of this one story I was going to read, as I read about a Minnesota. They were from Minneapolis, a couple from Minnesota. And they decided to go to Florida to thaw out during a particularly icy winter, and they planned to stay at the same hotel where they spent their honeymoon 20 years earlier. It can be a little romantic getaway and go down to Florida and spend some time there. And because they're hectic schedules, and some of you may know what that's like, the husband went down first and got things ready, and the wife wouldn't be able to get off work and make it time until the following day. So he went down a day early, and he got there on a Thursday, and she would plan to come in the following day on a Friday. Well, the husband checked in the hotel. There's a little computer in the room, so he decided he'd just send a quick note by email and let his wife know he arrived. And however, he accidentally let out one of the numbers on an email address, and it went to someone else. He didn't realize it because it didn't come back to him, but it went to someone else and not to his wife. Well, he didn't realize his error, and somewhere in Houston, there was a widow who just returned home from her husband's funeral. He had been a Baptist minister for years, and he was called home to glory following a heart attack. The widow decided to check her email, expecting there to be some condolences messages and people reaching out to her family and friends. But after reading the very first email, she screamed and fainted, because here's what he had sent. After reading it, she did scream, and the widow's son ran into the room and found his mother on the floor, and this is what was written. To my loving wife, subject, I have arrived. I know you're surprised to hear from me. The computers they have here now are fantastic, and you're allowed to send messages back to your loved ones. I've just arrived, and I've been checked in. I've seen that everything's been prepared for you for your arrival tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to see you then. I hope your journey is uneventful as mine was. And P.S., it sure is hot down here. Whoopsie. Well, I hope you've never had experience like that, closing out a letter or sending one to someone. But all kidding aside, we're going to look at Paul's closing at his letter to the church in Rome. We start in verse 22, and we'll go to the chapter. There's not many verses here to cover today, but we're going to focus on one primarily. He starts out, for this reason, I have been much hindered from coming to you. He's been planning to go to Rome. He wanted to see the believers there, but he's been hindered, and some other things have taken precedence. And sometimes, if you want to go visit someone, and it's a long journey, you got to make preparations, you got to make sure everything is taken care of, and you've got to take care of priorities first. And for Paul, the first priority was sharing the gospel, and he was still going to places that haven't heard. And he says, as soon as I get done with this journey, as soon as I go and preach the gospel of these places, I plan on coming to you. But for these reasons, I've been hindered. I'm still going to people who haven't heard it. I can come to you and spend time with you, but I would like to know that I go to those who haven't heard it first, and then I'll come to you. And that was his heart's desire. He was a missionary, an evangelist, an apostle, and he wanted to take it to them, and he let them know also in the forerunning that I don't want to build on another's foundation. I'm going to take the gospel of those who haven't heard it, and I will come and spend some time with you when I can. And that makes perfect sense when you're reading it. And he goes to verse 23. He says, now no longer having a place in these parts and having a great desire these many years to come to you. I plan on coming to you. I think I'm finishing up. And as soon as I'm able, once again, I'm going to spend some time with you. He wants to see the church in Rome. He wants to be with these believers. Remember, they were scattered during the persecution and all over the place. And some of the believers went to Rome. And Rome, there's a mixture of Jews and Gentiles worshiping together. So Paul would like to go there. He'd like to be with them. And he's wanting to go there. And he has a desire to go there. But he's being delayed for a period of time. And he goes on 24 of his desires. Shares some things he'd like to do. And isn't this great? He says, whenever I journey to Spain, I shall come to you. For I hope to see you on my journey and be helped there on my way by you. So he's talking, saying, I am planning to go to Spain to take the gospel to another country, another region we haven't been to yet. I'd like to take it there. On my way to Spain, I want to stop by and visit you. And he says, he's honest with him for a twofold purpose. I want to see you, but I also am hoping that you'll help me on my journey to Spain, that you'll start giving so we can reach the lost in Spain also. I don't know how many of you ever given to people in missions? Anyone? We've supported missionaries in the past. We give right now at the Florida Baptist Convention. All of us, anytime you give, a portion of that goes to help support missionaries on the mission field. Because every single missionary the Florida Baptist puts on a mission field, they're 100% supported by Southern Baptist churches before they take one step on the field. So you say, well, I'm not supporting missionaries. Yes, you are. How many? A bunch. Every time you give, a portion of every Southern Baptist church who chooses to participate in the convention, a portion of that is taken to make sure our missionaries are taken care of so they don't have to go on furlough. They don't have to raise funds to stay on there. If we believe that God's sending them to preach the gospel, then we want to make sure that their needs are met and they're sent out fully equipped for that. So we do give. But Paul is saying, I want to see you on my journey. So I want to see you, but I also want to be helped on my way there. I want to know if you're going to be able to support my ministry, if you could go to Spain and bring the gospel message to a place that may not have heard it before. That's exciting. That's exciting. I mean, there's still places on the earth where people groups have not been reached yet. You may have heard that story recently in India, that one young missionary who died off the coast. He was trying to reach an unreached people group and they ended up taking his life. It was indigenous people that have not been reached and they have not gone there, but he talked someone into dropping him off on an island and they ended up taking their life. But his goal, he wanted to take the gospel to people who haven't heard it. And sometimes that can cost you your life. You have to be willing to lay down everything to go to people who haven't heard the gospel, and he was willing to do that. But Paul is saying, I want to see you. I'm on my way to Spain. When I go there, stop by, and if you can help me, and first I may enjoy your company for a while. I want to spend some time with you, but I need your help. Is it okay to ask people for help every now and then? Well, if you don't ask people for help and no one helps you, do you get mad? It's one of those catch-22s. If you need help and you don't ask for it and you don't get it, some people get upset. Well, they should just know what I need. Okay, listen. at the same time as someone who needs something asked in front of you, and they get it, and you say, well, why'd they give them not to me? Well, they asked. It's funny, I read this one article, is really funny. This lady in a church, and I don't know the denomination of it, she gave a large amount of money to a college, enough to do a whole thing on the college. And people in church were a little bit taken back by it, and so they went and approached her and says, well, how come you didn't give that money to the church? And she simply said, you didn't ask, they did. Ooh, so I'm going to ask you, you want to give? No. If you're thinking about giving a large chunk of money to a college, would you come see me first? That's all I want to pass by you. And look what he says in verse 25. I am now going to Jerusalem to minister saints. So he's giving them, he said, yeah, I want to come see you. I plan to go to Spain. When I go to Spain, I'll stop by and see you. Right now, I'm on another journey. I'm going back to Jerusalem. Well, some of you who know the Bible go, uh-oh, because people in Jerusalem do not like Paul. People in Jerusalem, if you read through the book of Acts, wanted to kill Paul on multiple occasions. They want to end his life because he was one of them, and then he turned and became a Christian, and the people that sent him now want to kill him. They want to end his life. In fact, 40 men had taken a vow once that they would not eat or drink till Paul was dead, and he escaped. And I wonder, it doesn't say, did those people die? Or did they break their vow? It doesn't say in the scripture, so I don't know. So he was going to minister to the saints in Jerusalem, and if you would like to do some more study, you can. Acts 21 tells us of Paul's approach. And if you read through Acts, he's going to Jerusalem. And the interesting thing about that, when you read through 21, Paul is warned twice by the Spirit of God through individuals not to go to Jerusalem. He's warned by the Holy Spirit not to go back to Jerusalem by individual people, and then by one prophet named Abagus. That's one of them that come, and I'll just read this for you in Acts 21, 10 and 11. As we stayed many days, a certain prophet named Abagus came down from Judea, and when he had come to us, he took Paul's belt around his own hands and his feet and said, thus says the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this belt and deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles. That's the second warning. The first warning came when the individuals pleaded with Paul through the Spirit not to go to Jerusalem. And then I have to ask myself, why did Paul want to go to Jerusalem so bad if he was warned twice they're going to kill you if you go there? Well, let's forget about Paul for a minute. Let's talk about us. Has God ever revealed something to you and you went against his will? I said, preacher, you're getting personal. I know. Well, if an apostle can do it, surely we can. Has God ever revealed something to you and you didn't listen to what he said? Now, it's not confession time, but I think that would be an affirmative. And I remember the last church I was at. It's interesting because I knew God said it and I didn't do it. And think, why didn't you do it? I'm going to tell you next week. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to wait till next week. I started this church. My first day I'm going around. I'm at the previous church I'm at. And the deacon is taking me around and introduced me to the church secretary who happens to be his wife. And listen, I heard God say in my spirit, you need to fire her right now. I don't even know her. I've never met her before in my life. I know nothing about her. But I clearly heard, fire her right now. I think, well, why didn't you fire her, preacher? Because I've been educated. Because I'm an idiot. Educated idiot. When you go through college and you go through training and you go through classes, they say when you go to a new church, don't make any big decisions right up. Don't do anything right up front that's going to rattle the boat. And I listened to that instead of God, and I wished I hadn't. So I relate to Paul. There's sometimes God's revealed something to you directly, and you knew it was him, and out of fear, maybe advice from someone else, maybe God spoke to you, and the worst thing you can do when God speaks to you is go talk to 5 or 6 other people. Because now you have 5 or 6 other answers. Because did you notice all the people you ask don't give you the same answer? If God said to do it, except kill your pastor, if he says that, I promise, go